Rightio, good afternoon everybody. Today I'll give a quick update on the recovery progress being made on our state highway network following Cyclone Gabrielle and announce work underway on 10 more Bailey bridges to restore access to some of the most badly hit areas. The weather brought by Cyclone Gabrielle closed 14 state highways at various locations, amounting to road closures totalling 1,346 kilometres. Crews have been working around the clock in difficult and sometimes hazardous conditions to restore access, and excellent progress has been made over the last few weeks. As of Friday, 1,229 kilometres or 91% of the affected state highways have now reopened for at least lifeline access. Bailey bridges are being successfully installed in some of the hardest hit areas. Most recently, 3 bridges were installed, allowing access to Gisborne and Wairoa, and communities north of Auckland in the Western Bay of Plenty. Work continues on 3 others. Today I can also announce that an additional 10 further Bailey Bridge sites have been identified and work is underway at 6 of them already in locations in Gisborne, Hawke's Bay and the Manawatu. We have enough stock and components available or on order for all of the approved bridge sites. Waka Kotahi is working with the New Zealand and Australian distributor of the modern equivalent of Bailey bridges that are manufactured in the UK to source any additional stock that might be needed. They're working closely with the regions hardest hit by the cyclone to ensure the $250 million that we announced for local roads, rail and infrastructure is going to where it is most needed. That funding is available to councils through to the 30th of June. I want to acknowledge the extraordinary efforts of our road crews and the people on the ground who have been working hard to restore access. Waka Kotahi have advised that they're hearing from crews in the affected areas that they have been receiving abuse from motorists. While roadworks are frustrating, the extent of the damage is unprecedented. Many of these workers are doing incredibly long hours on the roads and then heading home to deal with damage that the cyclone has caused to their own homes and properties. It's understandable that people are frustrated by the situation, but it's not okay to take out that frustration on the people who are doing the work to restore roading access. There are still some major road closures that are causing significant disruption. While there is an alternative access, I know that State Highway 25A at Coromandel is a particular challenge for people right now. In the next few weeks, we are expecting to reopen State Highway 2 through to Tuatera, State Highway 1 at the Brindurwin, and State Highway 38 through to the Arioniiwa Falls. However, the damage to our roads and rail has been massive, and some of those connections are going to take longer to restore. The entirety of the State Highway 5 from Taupo to Napier reopened for freight convoys last week, and as of this morning it's open to the public again between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. On to other matters. I'm able to confirm that this afternoon I have appointed Ginny Anderson, or I intend to appoint Ginny Anderson to take over the role as Minister of Police. She has worked for the police in the past for over a decade and more recently has been the chair of Parliament's Justice Select Committee. She'll get started on that role immediately. Barbara Edmonds will pick up her responsibilities as Associate Minister of Immigration. It's a recess week this week. On Tuesday, I'll be out and about in the Hutt Valley for a range of visits and meetings. On Wednesday, I will be in Nelson to check in on the flood recovery there, and I'll also be speaking to a business event hosted by the Nelson Chamber of Commerce. Happy to open up for questions.
Why Ginny Anderson?
Ginny Anderson is familiar with the police portfolio. She's been the chair of the Justice Select Committee. When I've looked at what I want to see from the Minister of Police, I think she's very well suited to take up that role.
She's the second lowest rated minister in Cabinet. What does that say about your priorities around crime?
It doesn't say anything about our priorities around crime. And you'll know that the Minister of Justice sits on the front bench. Many of the policy issues that the police deal with are covered by the Justice portfolio. And of course, I have an interest in this as well. I can provide an absolute reassurance that Law and order and crime will continue to be a key area of focus for the government.
So you personally will take an oversight of that role as Prime Minister?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I still have an interest in it. Having recently been Minister of Police, I'll continue to monitor progress in that area.
Why is Jenny not here?
Sorry, was that?
Why is she not here today?
We don't routinely always bring up new ministers when they have just been appointed to a new role.
What was her experience with the police when she worked for them in the public service?
As I've indicated, she worked for the police for 10 years and has experience working there. I'm happy for we'll send out some biographical details of the areas that she has been working on. But actually, probably the more recent and relevant experience is as chair of Parliament's Justice Committee. Of course, she will have had quite a lot of exposure to the police and to the issues that police are dealing with at the moment.
Wouldn't it make more sense for you as Prime Minister to give it to someone who's a safe pair of hands who can just guide the portfolio into the next election and really hold their own? Wouldn't that have been a sensible?
I think Jenny Anderson will hold her own.
But she's not exactly a safe pair of hands, though, in terms of ministerial responsibility. This is a big one.
It is a big portfolio, and I have confidence in Jenny and her ability to tackle it.
In terms of your leadership, though, why not give it to a safe minister? Why did you choose to take this position, perhaps giving it to someone who still has a bit to prove as a minister?
I think Jenny is a safe minister.
Why is Stuart Nash still a cabinet minister?
I went through all of this last week. Stuart, and I'm not going to recanvass that ground now. I set out all of that out really clearly last week. Stuart's on his final warning. I'm confident that he'll, knuckle down into the portfolios that he has.
Reactions that in any single one of them could have been a sacking offence, yet he's still in your cabinet. I mean, demotion really means nothing apart from a drop in status. He's still got all the perks of being a cabinet minister. Is that really a message to send about your ministerial standard expectations?
I went through all of that last week, Jane. I've also been clear that I do accept that people are human beings and from time to time will make mistakes. Stuart is well aware that he's on his final chance, though.
Have any other ministers come to you in light of Stuart Nash's actions and said, look, there's something I need to confess of inappropriately meddled in affairs that I shouldn't have?
No.
The Foreign Minister... Oh, you can follow up.
Would you expect them to have done some hard thinking over the weekend and know by now if any
I
other
made it
ministers?
clear to all ministers at Cabinet this morning that I want them to make sure that they are very familiar with the Cabinet manual, that they're very familiar with the conduct and the expectations of ministers and that they are living up to those.